Welcome to All Classic Car, and in this collection we're looking at classic recovery trucks, breakdown lorries, car transporters, including racing car transporters, Beavertail trucks, artics with swan-neck trailers, and many more such vehicles. And we begin with ADM 385A, which is an Austin K2 of May 1948. Lovely little truck this is. This was on a New Year's Day or Boxing Day meet in the mid-2000s. The livery of a garage over near Tarpley in Cheshire. Beautiful little truck that is. Next up, slightly more recently, this was at the Woodford Air Fair, I think this was, a couple of years ago. Got a Diamond T, heavy recovery vehicle from World War II. There's a rear view of the same vehicle. First of the Beavertails to feature here. This is a Bedford TK, this is E-Reg from 1967. It's got a Mark II Ford console on the back. Down to Goodwood, and we've got a Series 2 or Series 2A Land Rover recovery truck. Bit of heavy metal here. We've got a mighty Atkinson Border. This is an L registration truck from late 72 or early 1973. Slightly smaller, this was spotted at a Donington Park sale quite a few years ago, 1548JG. That's an Austin K8 from 1950. A well-laden AEC here, 88779L. That's an AEC Mandata from 1972. It's got a Leyland FG lorry on the back and a Mini. The rear three-quarter view of a lovely little Thornycroft. This was at the Gaydon Classic Truck Show quite a few years ago now. Very impressive indeed. This was at Goodwood Revival a few years back. Leyland Beaver EFE 55. This dates to 1950. It's a replica of a vehicle originally used by the Rover car company. Bit of Americana here now. We've got a B registration, so what's that, about 1984 white Road Boss 3-axle vehicle. Something equally heavy on the back. Two photos now of this wonderful Fiat-based transporter by Bartoletti. Lance Reventlow commissioned this way back in the day, and it's carried Cobras, Daytona Coupes, GT40s and so on. It sold back at the Goodwood Revival in 2018 for £402,500 all in. This was spotted at the docks, I think at Liverpool, many years ago, a V8 Ford-based wrecker, or recovery truck. Where is it now? Two photos now of this wonderful pre-war Dodge recovery vehicle, DDP 490, a 1936 Dodge in the livery of its first owner, Holling Drakes of Stockport, a long, well-established car dealership on the A6. Side view of the same vehicle there. Absolutely stunning little recovery vehicle, this one. Technically this probably isn't a recovery vehicle, it's probably used for the timber trade, an ex-wartime AEC Matador, registered in 67 but obviously a 1940s lorry. Back to Goodwood again, and another Land Rover, used for recovery duties down there. Continuing with these breakdown lorries, we've got another ex-World War II vehicle here. This is a Morris Commercial MSV 823. It's a CS8 from 1939 in the livery of the Marsh Motor Garages of Warminster. There's a rear three-quarter view of the same vehicle. You can see the Harvey Frost crane on the back. Another one here out on the road on the A41, this was WBM 266, that's a 1959 Leyland, complete with crane in the back. Really well turned out ERF here, very heavy duty crane on the back. This was at Gaydon Truck Show quite a few years back. This was on the Cheshire run, this ERF K registration, so late 71 or early 1972. I think that's an A series. This was at the Pageant of Power at Cholmondeley Castle a few years ago, the original Team Tyrrell F1 racing car transporter BPE 112H, based on a Leyland Royal Tiger Worldmaster chassis. There's a rear view of the same truck with a Tyrrell P34, the old six-wheeler, up on the top there. Like I say, there are several original racing car transporters featured in this particular collection. Here's another one, probably the most famous of the lot, the Ecurie Ecosse Commer, complete with a C-type and a D-type on the roof. Fantastic. On the left is a recreation of the BMC lorry. We'll get a better photo of that later. Next up, a side view of a Kenworth. I'm guessing this is 1960s. Continuing with these breakdown lorries. Well, technically this ERF isn't a breakdown lorry, but it's used as a vehicle transporter here. It's got an Austin A40 pickup, a 1000 weight pickup from the mid-1950s on the back. A little earlier in time now, we've got KR2637, which is a March 1930 registered Ford Model AA breakdown truck. Short wheelbase Ford D series is next, the G registration from late 1968 and the livery of G.A. Strafford of North Wales. Mid 80s or early 90s Renault recovery vehicle here with a comma on the back. To the Goodwood Revival again, and a fairly modern vehicle in the context of this particular collection, P500 Pro. That's a Renault, but the Talbot Lego is particularly nice at T26C of circa 1948. Here we've got a mighty Bedford and Atkinson with a variety of tractors on the back. And one of the BMC transporters. A number of these were made back in the early 1960s, I think. Many were mobile classrooms and a small number were race car transporters, and several of the classrooms have been converted since. Here we've got a 1966 Ford-based transporter. Judging by the livery on the side, it carries a Cobra. Heavy Metal XUY 538M from 1973. It's a Scammell, an Arctic with a swan-neck trailer and a bit of plant on the back there, the remains of an old crane. Back to Woodford again, ex-military World War II. We've got a Ward La France. January 1943 is the date of this one. 8.2 litre petrol engine under its bonnet. Really nice old Austin K2 of the late 1940s is next. Very solid old survivor, complete with crane on the back. Selection of photos now of the recreated Mercedes-Benz high-speed transporter of the 1950s, complete with the 300 SLR Coupe, a one-off designed for Rudolf Uhlenhaut. Next up, a Morris F registration Morris. This is a Morris FJ from 1967, being pressed into vehicle carrying duties as an Austin Gypsy and a little French microcar on the back. There's my old Commer from 1950. That was pressed into service as a racing car transporter in the early 1960s. There's a video about that on the channel if you're interested in this kind of thing. Another Land Rover. Here we've got a forward control Land Rover 101 G-Reg 1968, complete with the recovery gear on the back. Very heavy duty looking Ford D series here, V8 powered apparently, R-Reg 1976. There it is, same vehicle on the left, slightly different layout and format. I'm guessing this was a few years prior. There's another Ford behind it. Side view now of a mighty Foden recovery vehicle in the livery of WM Sample Recovery. He was one of the gents that moved the Dodge for me back in 1995 from Donington Park. On the Cheshire Run, I spotted this BMC Mastiff many years ago, G-Reg 1968, complete with the crane on the back. A D-Series Ford, this time a Beavertail with a little tractor on the back. Still plenty of recovery trucks and breakdown wagons to come. This stunning racing car transporter is the ex-Frank Williams Ford-based transporter of about 1972-1973. This was at Bicester Heritage a few years back. We spotted this on a holiday in Wales quite a few years ago. A nice Series 1 Land Rover recovery truck. Did it go on to be restored? Is it still there? There's a close-up of the front view, complete with the original RAC Get You Home Service sign on the front. Real survivor that is, hopefully. It went on to be restored, because this was quite a few years ago. Also a few years ago was this pair of fantastic Dodge recovery trucks. These were put through the auction at a classic commercial vehicle gathering that took place at Donington, and they didn't make much money at all. I seem to remember these sold for about £1,500 each, give or take. Very, very cheap, and I wish I'd registered for the auction now. More heavy metal here. We've got a mighty Volvo with a Atkinson on the back. Photos from an early Goodwood revival here. We've got various vehicles here. We've got a Dennis in the middle there. Looks like it could have been a fire truck at one time. A Maserati Transporter bottom right. And this little beauty was seen at Steam Rally a few years back, a Vulcan JFJ 672. This dates to 1949. It's got a Beavertail body on the back, perfect for carrying an old tractor or something like that. Now to Malvern, there was a commercial vehicle auction back in 2010, and this Commer NAS 856 was there as one of the entered lots. This one dates to 1932. Two for the price of one. Got an early 70s ERF here, suitable trailer on the back, and it's carrying an earlier ERF. Great pair. To race retro, and this particular little Alpha turned up once, 465 AGB, that's an early 1970s Alfa Romeo recovery vehicle, the Beavertail body on the back. Two photos now of AKP 213, that's a Bedford, first registered in December of 1933 in the livery of Northfield Sergeant's Garage. Lovely. Donington again, we've got a Dodge here, VUK 43H. Heavy recovery vehicle, 3 axles. On the Cheshire Run, quite a while ago, spotted this Bedford with the Detroit Diesel Power badge on the front there. This one's A-Reg, so about 1983. I think this was Astor Park Steam Rally in the mid to late 2000s. Got a Leyland Hippo LKA 369. It's been untaxed since 2010, but first registered in March of 1950. To the early 1930s on this wonderful International, with a one-off cab, clearly supplied as a chassis in the front end, and then just bodied by whoever the first owner was. Much more recent though is XNN 206H. This is a Leyland Beaver recovery wagon. Two photos now of RSY 891, a 1931 Ford. At the top left, it was spotted at Goodwood Revival, one of the early revival meetings, and then again at a Donington sale a little while later. To 2015, we took the Dodge down to Goodwood. This started out as an RAF crew bus and was used as a race car transporter in the late 40s and mid 1950s. There are several videos about that on the channel elsewhere. And this mighty Foden HOR 659 is the vehicle that brought it back from when I found the Dodge at Donington in 1995. This vehicle dates to 1949. To the NEC and this wonderful O Series Bedford-based recovery vehicle. Very smart indeed, part of a fleet of heritage vehicles. Another stunning race car transporter here, ex-BRM, WVE 63, based on a 1960 Leyland Royal Tiger chassis. Very distinctive, fantastic looking vehicle. There's a BRM poking out the back of it at the Pageant of Power a little while ago, ex-Jackie Stewart car. Back to Donington Park and one of their sales, we've got a hefty looking Scammell Crusader, T-Reg from 1978. A Scania now, SIL 61, that's a private plate, and it's got a collection of tractors on the back. And the gaggle of vehicles seen at the Goodwood Revival and the Festival of Speed quite a few years ago, probably nearly 20 years ago. Particularly like that Bedford TK. with the GT40 on the back. Now, a head-on view of a bit of military might, the mighty Antar tank transporter. Still plenty of vehicles to go, and this wonderful vehicle, SSL 291, is a Jensen. This was the freighter prototype, originally used by Raymond Way, a very famous car dealer down London Way. He used to carry Gordon microcars on the back. Another Land Rover here, Series 2 or Series 2A, in the livery of W. Pritchard and Sons of Wallasey. Lovely looking vehicle that, with one of those RAC signs on the front like we saw on that Series 1 Landy. GSJ 426. This shows on DVLA as being 1940, but if it is, that body's much later. I would say that body's probably 1950s, so it could well have been rebodied, but the original chassis. Next up, Cheshire Run again, another of the K&R Walsh Brothers fleet, the late 1960s Commer breakdown truck. Back to World War II again, we've got another example of the AEC Matador. Another one of the Walsh fleet. This is an AEC coach that's been modified, much modified in fact, into a vehicle transporter. That one dates to 1966. Late example of the Bedford TK now, Beavertail bodied again, so perfect for taking your vintage tractor or car to a show. A hefty looking Atkinson here, BRE 596D from 1966, taking part on the Cheshire Run for classic and vintage lorries quite a few years ago now. Another one of Walsh Brothers vehicles, a very rare Trojan RRO 240. That one dates to February of 1954. It has a 1500cc diesel engine. I'm sure some of those were two-stroke. A registration Ford base recovery vehicle is next. Ray Brooks Transports. I think he also owned the mighty V8D series that we saw before. Foden again, one of Sam Batch's finest, R registration, so what's that, 1976 or 77? Very much a heavy duty recovery vehicle, this one. Still plenty more to go. This stunning ERF was spotted at a pre-sale viewing day many years ago. Where is it now, I wonder? A beautiful looking little vehicle, this one. On the Cheshire Run, we've got an ERF and a Foden behind it. The ERF very much built with towing heavy lorries and such like in mind. Another of these BMC vehicles. I think this one probably started out as one of the mobile classrooms. Most of them were. A few were built as race car transporters, and subsequently a number of the mobile classrooms were converted into race car haulers. There's a rear view of the same vehicle. This was a preview of the Silverstone Classic race meeting a few years back. Very practical, very useful thing. Would look perfect with a Mini Cooper or two in the back. Back to Bedfords again. We've got 610YWD. This particular Bedford dates to January of 1951. It's got the crane in the back and various stickers on there as well. To the NEC, I think this was last year, 2021. John's Motors Limited. This is an early 1930s Morris commercial. 1-ton crane in the back there. There's a Bedford looking a little worse for wear. What happened to this? Did it come on to be restored? This is a Wartime O series Bedford. The winch would have been added on later, I'm sure. The V8 Ford, based on the D series, a J registration vehicle from late 1970 or early 71. There's a hefty old Scammell, ex-military Scammell. Spotted on the Cheshire Run quite a few years back in the mid-2000s. We've got this Leyland Lynx from 1978 with a 79 Bedford on the back. Two photos I think now of K&R Walsh's stunning Volvo, 1966. This is a Volvo N86 recovery vehicle. Absolute beauty. There's a rear view of the same thing. Dating to 1966 is this unusual Albion Claymore, complete with a Beavertail body on the back. A you remember any of these vehicles or remember driving vehicles like this, here we've got an end registration AEC Mandator from 1975. Like I say, if you remember driving these or your own one now, please pop a note in the comments and tell us a bit more about it. 773 BRE is a wonderful oily rag job Foden. This one dates to February of 1954. Ex-Streetly Garage. Fantastic. More heavy metal here. We've got an R registration Volvo with an equally hefty looking diamond T on its swan-neck trailer. Back to Land Rovers, and again we've got ODM 604. This is a Landy of March 1957, complete with crane. Very original looking vehicle. Two for the price of one. Pair of Volvos here, one on the back of the other. The mighty Scammell XNT 64S of 1977, 24-hour recovery. This little beauty with the Ribble radiator, CRN 984. This is a Leyland from March of 1950, built up as a bus recovery vehicle. Hefty looking Volvo here, an F10 with intercooler and a pair of ERF lorries on the back. Just a few more to go. Little collection of older photographs here. We've got a Bedford QL at the top left, Foden, another Bedford J series in the middle there, Leyland FG, and that's the O series Bedford we saw earlier on the back of something. So the NEC, TDO 250, that's a Morris FFK dating to 1961, and there's a Morris 1800 saloon on the back. Wonderful little Albion next. This is an Albion Claymore of 1954, a livery of T. Mellor and Son, vintage recovery, Belper, Derbyshire, complete with a crane on the back. Great little truck. As is this Bedford. This is a TK from about 1976, Beavertail body, little dumper truck on the back. Here's that Morris-based commercial transporter, recreated transporter, BMC, that we saw earlier on. This was at the Goodwood Revival. This hefty machine was spotted down in Shropshire somewhere. Paynes, this is another example of the Ward La France, ex-World War II, heavy recovery vehicle. Fantastic bit of kit that is. At the same place we spotted this Commer Q4 based recovery vehicle as well. Great old wagon this is. Are they still there? Are they still in service? If you're interested to know more, please pop a note in the comments if you know. And to round out, we've got a few more here. I'm not quite sure what that sorry example at the top left is, but we've got an Austin at the bottom, a K2 or a K4. We've got a Morris J2 and another Scammell. And that little group rounds out this collection of photos featuring classic recovery trucks, breakdown lorries, racing car transporters, plant transporters, Beavertails, and many, many more. Hope that was of interest. There are loads of lorry-related videos on the channel now, so if you haven't seen them yet, I'll include a link here now. More videos along very, very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.